The Senate Judiciary Committee hearing was proceeding in its usual pattern. Technical testimonies, procedural responses, pauses for consultations with advisors. Attorney General Pam Bondi had occupied the central chair for hours, responding to questions from various senators on different topics related to Department of Justice oversight. Senator Elizabeth Warren waited her turn at the end of the table, a thick folder of documents in front of her. When she received the floor, the rhythm of the hearing changed. Warren opened the folder without preamble. She removed the first document and began reading aloud financial records dated between 2019 and 2022. The numbers were specific: $847,000 transferred to a company called Meridian Strategic Consulting. The senator described the origin of the funds as linked to entities associated with Russian oligarch Viktor Petrov. The amounts had allegedly passed through 3 companies registered in Cyprus before reaching the United States. Bondi remained silent while Warren presented the documents. The senator then held up a second paper, corporate records from the state of Florida. According to official files, Bondi was listed as legal counsel for Meridian Strategic Consulting precisely during the period when the transfers were made. Warren read the relevant sections slowly, mentioning dates, amounts, and names of intermediary entities. The Attorney General adjusted herself in her chair. She briefly consulted an advisor seated behind her. Warren continued. She presented a third document, a disclosure form from the Florida Bar, signed by Bondi in June 2019. The form contained a statement denying knowledge of funding by foreign governments or entities linked to them. Warren pointed out that, according to the bank records she had just presented, relevant transfers had been processed months before the document was signed. Bondi began to respond. She mentioned General Department of Justice policies on combating foreign influence. She cited recent actions against disinformation networks. Warren interrupted. She repeated the question directly. Did Bondi have knowledge at the time of signing the form that funds linked to Russian entities had been received by Meridian? The answer required only yes or no. The Attorney General returned to broader themes. She spoke about the complexity of international corporate structures. She mentioned that legal consultants frequently work on various projects without detailed knowledge of the origin of all funds involved. Warren maintained her posture. She returned to the documents, highlighted specific dates, exact amounts, names of shell companies in Cyprus. The contrast between Bondi's generic responses and the specificity of the documents presented by Warren became more evident with each exchange. The senator did not raise her voice, did not accelerate her pace. She simply returned to the papers. She read a passage, asked a direct question, waited. Bondi responded with broad statements about due diligence processes in consulting. Warren returned to the numbers. At one point, Warren held all the documents simultaneously and positioned them visibly before the cameras. She repeated the chronological sequence. Transfers initiated in 2019. Bondi registered as a consultant for Meridian during the same period. Disclosure form signed denying knowledge of foreign ties, continuation of transfers until 2022. The senator then formulated the question even more narrowly. Had Bondi personally reviewed Meridian's financial records before signing the bar form? Bondi consulted her advisors again. She requested a brief recess. The committee chairman denied the request, informing her that Warren's time was still running. The Attorney General began to respond that compliance processes in large consulting firms frequently involve multiple layers of verification. Warren asked if this meant she had not reviewed the records personally. Bondi deflected to the importance of institutional protocols. The senator changed her approach. She asked if Bondi knew Viktor Petrov. The Attorney General responded that the name was familiar to her through public news. Warren presented a fourth document, the United States Department of the Treasury Sanctions List. Petrov had been on it since 2018, 1 year before the first transfers to Meridian. The senator questioned whether, as an attorney, Bondi did not consider it relevant to verify if clients or funding sources were under federal sanctions. Bondi responded that verification processes are conducted by specialized teams. Warren replied with a question about individual responsibility in sworn statements. The Attorney General stated that she had always acted in good faith. Warren returned to the bar form, highlighted Bondi's signature, and read again the section about denying knowledge of foreign ties. Warren's timer still showed more than a minute when the senator asked the question that would change the remainder of the hearing. With the documents organized before her, she questioned whether Bondi was stating, under oath at that moment, that she was completely unaware of the Russian origin of the $847,000 received by Meridian while she served as the company's registered consultant. The room fell silent. Bondi looked at her attorneys. 15 seconds passed without an audible response. Whispered conversations between the Attorney General and her legal team were picked up by the microphones, but not intelligibly. Warren remained motionless, waiting. The committee chairman asked if Bondi intended to answer. The Attorney General requested permission to consult her legal representatives. After the consultation, Bondi informed that, following the guidance of her attorneys, she would not answer further questions about her work at Meridian Strategic Consulting at that time. The statement was made in a procedural manner without elaboration. Warren thanked her and returned the floor to the committee chairman. The total time elapsed from the beginning of her intervention to its conclusion was 83 seconds. The following senators resumed their questions on other topics, but Bondi maintained her stance of not commenting specifically on Meridian. She answered general questions about Department of Justice policies, but declined questions that could connect to the documents presented by Warren. The hearing continued for 2 more hours, without the subject of Russian transfers being raised again by other committee members. In the hours following the hearing's conclusion, excerpts from the confrontation between Warren and Bondi began circulating on digital platforms. Legal analysts were consulted by media outlets to comment on the technical implications of the case. Discussions about shell company structures, international money laundering, and violations of sworn statements gained space in specialized programs. Warren sent formal letters to the Department of the Treasury and the Florida Bar Disciplinary Office requesting additional investigations. The documents attached to the letters were the same ones presented during the hearing, supplemented by detailed bank records obtained through official requests to financial institutions. The senator made no additional public statements after sending the correspondence. Bondi, for her part, did not grant interviews in the subsequent days. Her office issued a brief statement affirming that all professional activities were conducted in compliance with the law and that the Attorney General would fully cooperate with any official verification processes. The statement did not specifically address the amounts mentioned by Warren or the issue of the bar form. Senate committees have the authority to request